In breaking news, another federal judge, this time in San Francisco, has found that Trump's Department of Justice is just not believable and credible, has entered a temporary restraining order stopping the mass firings of probationary workers throughout the federal workforce, finding that the Office of Personnel Management, the puppet of DOGE and Musk that's been used to give the axe and swing the axe to all those employees, doesn't have the power to do that, and didn't believe a word that the Department of Justice said about, we didn't make the order, we just made a recommendation. BS. And the judge called him on it and entered the order to stop the mass firings. I'm Michael Popok. You're right where you want to be. MeidasTouch and Legal AF. Let's talk about Judge Alsop's new order coming out of San Francisco federal court. As we've said before, keep your eye closely on the San Francisco federal courthouse. I've been in that courthouse. I've argued in that courthouse. I know where the coffee is nearby to that courthouse. But more importantly, the judges there are moderate. They are Biden, Clinton, Obama appointees by and large. They sit in the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. They are important to the protection of our democracy, our rule of law at this critical moment where federal judges, lawyers, labor unions, attorneys general, public interest groups are all joining together to oppose Donald Trump and his worst immoral, unpatriotic, unconstitutional instincts. Judge Alsop had before him a case brought by the AFL-CIO. The AFL-CIO, the largest labor union in the country, represents many of the federal workers that are at the short end of this particular stick of being fired. The target for Donald Trump in this case that was up for grabs with Judge Alsop are what we call probationary employees. Don't be fooled by the title. Makes it sound like they're kind of temps or substitute teachers for the day. Sorry for substitute teachers, but they are very, very important. Both substitute teachers and probationary employees. They are actually, according to Judge Alsop, the lifeblood of our government and government service because they come in at kind of low level, low rank. They get trained up. They move through the ranks and they become expert. And they, as the lower level come in, the other people at the top retire. And we have proper services being provided to our to Americans, citizens. And the judge did not buy for a moment in issuing his temporary restraining order. We're up to over 40 temporary restraining orders and preliminary injunctions already. He didn't buy the Department of Justice argument that the Office of Personnel Management didn't actually fire anybody. They just recommended that they be fired, Judge. The judge said, come on. First of all, I'm going to issue the restraining order, the temporary restraining order for now, which is going to stop the Office of Personnel Management from exercising any power or authority over firing, because they don't have that power. Agencies have to make that decision. Cabinet level people confirmed by the Senate and all of that have to make that decision, not the Office of Personnel Management. Now, it didn't come up in the hearing, but we know it from other cases, is who is in control of the server, the email server for the Office of Personnel Management, Elon Musk. And he's a coward and he sends out firing emails. He fires out firing emails from hr@opm.com. Nothing says I'm a coward like an anonymous HR email firing somebody. We know that there's a linkage between the Department of Government Efficiency and Services, DOGE and Musk, and the Office of Personnel Management. It will burst out into the open in a case like this, I assure you. For right now, the judge is like, I am not buying what you're selling, Department of Justice. You're telling me that the memo that went out, which said, quote, we ask that you separate probationary employees who are not mission critical by the 17th of February was not an order? And the problem that the Department of Justice has is that there's other sworn under oath testimony going on around the country in other federal courthouses and in Congress. On Tuesday, just before the judge entered the temporary restraining order and it became evidence in the case, the head of Veterans Affairs for Donald Trump testified to Congress and in response to a Democratic member question, had to admit that they got a direction. She called it a direction to fire probationary workers from the Office of Personnel Management. Sworn testimony came into the courtroom. That's why when the Department of Justice said it was just aspirational, we didn't realize they were going to actually fire all of them. The judge says, let me get this straight. And this is almost a paraphrase, almost a direct paraphrase from the judge's hearing. Let me get this straight. There's amputations, his word, going on all over the government, simultaneously and coordinated on appearance. And it's aberrational. It's never happened in our history before. You want me to believe that all of these federal agencies independently just decided one morning to fire all their probationary workers, and that wasn't off a command from the Office of Personnel Management that doesn't even have that power? Ridiculous. I'm not buying it. The evidence points the other way. And I want in my courtroom in 2 weeks, I want the head of the Office of Personnel Management, Mr. Izell, to come in here and testify. And that's going to be the hearing on the preliminary injunction. In the meantime, I'm going to issue this restraining order. You are to reinstate the probationary employees in the agencies that are the subject of this lawsuit. So it's limited to the group that the AFL-CIO sued in this particular case: Veterans Affairs, Small Business Administration, Land Management, Department of Defense. But the judge, a little bit of magical thinking here, looked that same untrustworthy Department of Justice attorney in the eye and said, I expect the government to do the right thing and let all the other agencies know of my ruling. I like you, Judge Alsup. I think you're a fantastic judge. You've been on the bench for a long time. But I'd also like a unicorn in my backyard who craps gold bricks. I'm not getting that either. If you think this Department of Justice headed by Donald Trump and Pam Bondi is going to tell the other agencies about your order when it doesn't apply to them, I don't think so. But the good news is there are other judges handling other matters involving the Office of Personnel Management and the Department of Government Efficiency and Musk all simultaneously. I mean, I just reported on one yesterday, a judge in D.C., who got fed up with not being able for any lawyer for the Department of Justice to explain what DOGE is and what it does and what its superpowers are, what its limitations are, who's in charge of it, what's Elon Musk's role. So he said, yeah, I'm going to allow 8 hours of deposition, sworn testimony under oath in this case, because I'm 3 weeks into a case, the judge said, and I don't even understand it. It's so opaque. Let's get to the bottom of DOGE and the rest of it. There is this connectivity between DOGE and the Office of Personnel Management that hasn't yet been explored in courts, but it will be. When you have 100 cases going on at the same time throughout the country against the Trump administration, and you have all of these hearings, I mean, each one of these temporary restraining orders, each one of these preliminary injunctions, over 45 to 50 now, each one had a major hearing with evidence, with affidavits, with submissions. And that's where we get them. Because all of those affidavits, you can pull them from the public docket. And that's what the lawyers in all the various cases are doing. Now, I'm sure there's a clearinghouse where they're sharing all of this information. Just Security has one. If you go on justsecurity.com, you'll see the clearinghouse. So if I'm a lawyer handling one case, I want every affidavit, every sworn statement made by every government official in every other case, and look for consistencies and inconsistencies. And in the inconsistencies is where victory lies. They're lying to the court. They're taking inconsistent positions. It's already come out. It's already been mentioned by judges that there's filings that are not consistent, and we got to get to the bottom of it with more evidence, because that's where a judge's natural instincts are. You know what? I can't figure it out. Go take some depositions, sworn statements under question and answers under oath. Go look at some documents. Come back to me. And I, as a trier of fact, will figure it out with you. That's the natural instincts. And that's to our benefit. At the same time, all of those filings, picture, we were already probably, if I'm not kidding, it's probably 50 filings already in each case. You're looking at 2,500 pieces of paper that have already been filed in these various cases, and they're all being accumulated and sorted through AI and real eye by lawyers trying to figure out all of this. Separately, you've got Congress and the Democrats in Congress in opposition, who during hearings are doing searing, excruciatingly proctologist-style examinations of government officials for Donald Trump in front of them, which is then useful to use those statements in courtrooms. So they end up coming in this biofeedback loop, right? And we cover it all. We break it all down. We say breaking, it's because it just happened. It doesn't mean there hasn't been 3 or 4 breaking things in the same day, because Donald Trump's busy breaking things. See? It is early in the morning, but I did get that out. But thanks for being here on MeidasTouch and Legal AF. Follow me, Michael Popok, on all things Legal AF. Legal AF, the YouTube channel, where we're growing to 500,000 in our first 6 months. over at Legal AF MTN. Popok Live, a new podcast on Tuesday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern time, right here on this MeidasTouch YouTube channel. Legal AF, the original OG podcast for law and politics. Top 10 in the world. Hard to believe. It's really on you, and we're humbled by it. Wednesdays and Saturdays at 8 p.m. Eastern time here on this MeidasTouch YouTube channel, and then on audio podcast platforms of your choice. So until my next reporting, I'm Michael Popok. In collaboration with the MeidasTouch Network, we just launched the Legal AF YouTube channel. Help us build this pro-democracy channel where I'll be curating the top stories, the intersection of law and politics. Go to YouTube now and free subscribe at Legal AF MTN. That's at Legal AF MTN.